This is going to be brilliant. Hello, my name is Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 71, the long distance trucker. Is there any PhD student in the world who looks less like a long distance trucker than Vicki Pascoe? This amazing, astounding, astonishing, magnificent woman. Wow. This woman has been enrolled in her PhD, I'm going to say it, Vic, for 8 long years. But she's just submitted and she's under examination that we're going to talk about. But I thought it was very significant for everybody out there, and there are tens of thousands of students around the world who have been enrolled in their PhD for a very, very, very long time. And the problem, Vixter, as we've talked about, is in PhD research, the longer the candidature goes, the less likely you are to finish. And Vixter, 8 years plus in, has finished. So we're going to use that expertise, use the expertise of the long distance trucker to understand how exactly you get successful from that place. So Vixter, you're a legend. Hello.
Hello, Tara.
You are an amazing human being, and you and I share a lot. We're both blondes, obviously. You're obviously much better blonde than I am, but you're a fantastic blonde. We share a lot. And one of the weird things we found out that we share is we both worked at Central Queensland University, Viva, Rock Vegas, and Bundy, and Emerald, and the rest. So can you tell us about your career before you enrolled in a PhD, which was a very successful academic career in and of itself?
Yes, it was. And of course, a PhD is part of an academic career, so it was a necessity. If I was going to continue as an academic, that I had to get a PhD. I was happy to be doing that because I love research, so that was fine. Worked for a few universities, Southern Cross, Charles Darwin, and then Central Queensland. Lots of roles, usually an academic role. For a while, I actually was an acting co-director of the Centre at Central Queensland University, so that also involves some management, supervision. So, I've been living the academic career. I've done the conferences and the journal articles and the teaching, etc. So I had to sort of put all that aside to get this PhD finished.
And that's really powerful. So you talked about the PhD being part of the natural course of an academic career, and I agree with you. Was there a short-term trigger, though, something in your career that said, you know what, now is the time to do a PhD? Was there something that happened to you? Or was it a long-term, this is something I need to do?
It's always been a long-term thing in the back of my mind. I didn't finish my education, and I was very naughty. I was expelled from school.
That's completely understandable.
Didn't get the opportunity to go back. So, from 15 years of age, I was full-time working. And so I missed out on that. And there was always a feeling, I haven't finished my education. I really want my education. And that didn't happen until I was 34. So I was a late bloomer. But it was, I think, a progressive thing. I did the bachelor's degree, and someone said, what are you going to do now? And I thought, oh, well, actually. And so I progressed on and did grad cert and a grad dip and an MN honours, and the PhD was always there, and it was the ultimate. I think that's what's helped drive me. To me, it was always the peak of someone's education, the ultimate goal, the swan song, maybe, I had to do it anyway, and it's become more for me. It started off as a requirement of a job, and something that I secretly aspired to, I guess, all the time. Now that I've actually done it, I realise that I did it purely and simply for moi.
And you can see the level of the commitment and the motivation there, which might become important later on, actually. This matters to Vicki. And as someone who knows you and absolutely adores you, that the mattering of the PhD, the commitment, the belief, the energy never left you.
No.
And I now understand a little bit more. So for you, it is the pinnacle. This is something your life has led in some ways to this point.
Yes. Yep.
That is remarkable, and I'm going to get people, and you'll see the commitment. This is not only about this great woman, but about this incredibly important topic. I'll ask the question, now that it's finished, you can relax with it. Can you tell us about your PhD?
Yes, I certainly can. Well, it's been with me for such a long time.
Yeah.
And in saying that, a long time has actually, in some ways, been advantageous because it's been able to evolve. So basically, I started off wanting to explore the experiences of international medical graduates in Australia. And because of it taking 8 years, I've actually had access to not only my own data, which was some interviews and a focus group, but also a couple of very significant investigations and subsequent reports to do with medicine, IMGs, that have contributed voices to the study as well. So it's almost as if, this is my rationalisation, it's almost as if sort of, the planets wouldn't align properly for this to be finished until we got all this in, and that meant over some years.
That's powerful because it's very easy to go, oh look, have I got the data, have I got the data? You used the length of time incredibly well. So instead of being a study of a snapshot of the IMGs, it's become a really rich and important longitudinal study that wasn't in the original planning, but as the data sets emerged, it's now this rigorous, powerful analysis, isn't it?
It is very powerful, it's very stark, and it was quite an emotional journey to begin with when I discovered what some of these voices had to say. It was quite confronting, and then that sort of evolved into I'm telling their story, a sort of a social justice feeling about it there.
And you've moved through in this thesis iterations of multicultural theory or lack thereof in contemporary Australia, and I also think your perspective as an Indigenous woman has provided a whole series of insights into racism and discrimination that a white fella, a coloniser, a settler person could not have brought to this data. Am I being unfair there? I just think it brought a richness and an energy that I don't think any other scholar could have brought to this topic.
Oh, well, thank you.
It's true.
I think it does. I think there are plenty of people who look at racism, but I really do feel that unless you've personally experienced it, it's still not quite the whole experience. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
We're all aware of it, we all sort of know what it involves, but I guess, one thing I used to do with students sometimes to try to help them get a sense of what, particularly in a role as a teacher, of what students might feel as a result of experiencing racism. And I used to say to them, imagine, a situation in your life, and you probably have had it, where you feel that you don't belong, that you feel like you're on the outside and you just don't belong there. And that helps sensitise to a degree. But I think to actually experience it firsthand, and the terrible sort of slap in the face that it is, particularly if you're not expecting it, and the hurtfulness and the disappointment that goes with it is very powerful.
Yeah, and as I said, I think that enabled you to care for and respect the testimony that emerged in this thesis because of that deep understanding and empathy. You can see it in your thesis.
Yes. Yeah.
You're an amazing woman, you are. Now, 8 years, long distance trucker, 8 years. What went right and wrong in that 8 years that has got us here in my office on this glorious winter day in Adelaide?
Okay, well, we don't want to say that everything went wrong. Things did go right. You were a right thing, that's for sure. Thank goodness for you and Steve. I guess reflecting now, and of course hindsight is 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
But I think what I would say is, if I was going to do this again, I would be highly aware of that clock ticking right from the day you're enrolled.
Boom.
Because what happened to me was I got into a situation, a work situation that was all-encompassing. Should have said no, I won't act in this position. I'm I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my PhD done. But I didn't. And I kept thinking, oh, well, it's sort of early stages, you know, I'll get there, I'll get to it, it'll happen. I didn't stop the clock at that point. I just thought, you know, this won't go on forever. And it was an unsure situation time-wise.
Yeah.
So I'd been asked to do it, but it was because of someone else being on a sort of a long-term sick leave, and we didn't know if it was going to be 3 months. It ended up 2 years.
Wow.
So while I sort of pretty much got most of my data collected, that was it. It was 2 years almost wasted. And I should have said no, and I should have been very aware of that clock and just walked away from that.
And it's amazing you say that. Gwilym, who's our dear friend in Wales, remember,
Yes,
in Bangor.
yes,
we did
hi.
Gwilym. Gwilym, Vicki, Gwilym.
Yes, we're friends on Facebook.
That's unbelievable. Who knew? But can I say, if you
more
remember,
than one sense.
wow. But what I'd say about Gwilym, if you remember the last question in his vlog, because he's been also enrolled in a very long time, and he's aiming for the baker's dozen, I believe, for supervisors. But he actually said, do you remember, what you need to do to get a quick PhD, which he hasn't been able to do at this point, is say no. Say no to teaching. And you've said, say no to the administrative matters
The
that
extra
land.
role. The extra
Say
role.
no.
You can't, you need to be, I guess, nurturing of your PhD
Yeah.
by giving it the respect and time that it deserves, and by taking on all sorts of other things. And I had the option. I could have said no.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have liked it, but I could have said no, and I didn't. And I regret that, because that then put me into a tailspin in terms of that sort of feeling of the panic starting to set in. The clock has been ticking. I haven't done enough.
And then that creates stress.
How am I going to get this done? So I made a huge decision and resigned a tenured position at a university, and came to Flinders where I was enrolled. And so that meant moving state and the whole big deal, because I knew that it wasn't going to happen unless I did something drastic.
That is astounding. And you've often heard me say to you and everybody else, don't be a guest star in your own life.
No.
And I think probably for that early time at CQU, you were a guest star in your own life, and you had to do something radical like relinquish tenure. Wow. But don't we learn a lot about Australian universities that you had to make that decision?
Yeah.
Oh, that's shocking. But let's talk about the positive stuff, because 8 years, long distance trucker, but you've always been positive. What has kept the momentum and the energy? Why, 8 years in, have you submitted your PhD and tens of thousands of people on the journey stop? Where did you get that resilience, that momentum, that energy, Vic?
Well, I'm a very determined person, always have been, and I've never not finished something. And I thought, I'm not about to do that now. There was also, I think, a very strong sense of ethics, if you like, to those voices. I had collected data, I had spoken to doctors, and it was, I guess, imperative for me to do with the data what I said to them I was going to do. Otherwise, I guess feel like I'd done all that under false pretenses somehow. So there was a commitment and a loyalty, if you like, and an obligation to those voices to make sure that I did what I said I was going to do with them. That was really, really important to me. Very supportive environment around me.
Big hi to Arthur. Should we do a big hi to Arthur?
Hello, darling, love of my life.
We love you, Arthur.
Yeah. Who's always been totally encouraging. From when I first said, I think I might go to university. From that day, you know, onwards sort of thing. Always so encouraging. And my son's very encouraging, and I've got a lot of friends around me.
You have.
Who are very encouraging. And there have been some negative people around me. We all have those sorts of, but I've kept them at a distance, and tried not to sort of listen to those sorts of people. And I think that has been the foundation for being able to take the fact that things don't sometimes go as well as you like, or, you know, I had the plan to come to Adelaide and it was going to take me 2 years to get it done, because that was going to be my total focus. and then I got all sorts of physical things happen to me that slowed me down. So that, don't you hate it when life won't follow the script?
It's
really
a mongrel, isn't
really
it?
Annoys me.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was, so I guess I was thrown a few things out of left field that were very challenging. But I thought, no, I'm doing this. And I was discouraged, unfortunately, at this university, which was very disappointing. But I picked myself up very quickly and thought, to hell with this. I'm going to go and see that new Dean of Graduate Research.
She's a goer.
She'll help me.
and wow, and you have been, I'll just say this personally, camera going or not, you've been a light of my life, and you've been a light of Steve's life as well. And I met you very early on when I arrived, and you're a real sister to me. You're a dear friend, a really wonderful person.
Thank you for saying that.
Very precious. And also I'd say for the supervisors that may be watching this, you know, Vic has had some physical challenges. So when we were managing this final crunchy bit of your PhD to get it done, we just had to come up with andragogical strategies. She's a great teacher, so she knows exactly what we're doing, but come up with strategies to manage the body, manage the mind, and get it finished. And we did it overtly and clearly and spoke through the problems. And I think that's one of the other reasons we finished, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and to have someone genuinely appreciate that you do have some problems, you know. Sometimes those sorts of issues are not really understood by supervisors in terms of what you might be experiencing.
And if you believe in an enabling university, there are no problems, there are no issues, there are just solutions and structural ways in which we manage it. And very quickly we finished this PhD. So but it's about your resilience too and your momentum. You never gave up.
No, I don't give up.
And she finished. Last question, and this is the interesting one. And by the way, you can see I have a beautiful present here. I'll just move this into the frame slightly. This arrived today, so I'm going to open it with Steve when we get home. So you're very naughty doing that. You must never do that. I do not know what's in it.
It's not ticking.
It's not ticking. No. Our friends on Facebook will see the picture, so I'll let our vodcast listeners and viewers know what this is later. So thank you very much for this. You're very naughty, but you have just submitted. But tell us about that submission after 8 years and how that would feel and how it did feel.
It was, well, to begin with, I guess as I was getting close, I was sort of thinking, gosh, is this really going to be... I almost wanted to say to you, are you sure it's ready? Are you sure? You know, and I think I'd probably still be doing it. I'm a perfectionist.
You are?
And I kept thinking, I need to add in, maybe I should, have I clarified that enough? You know, it would never be ready. It would never have been ready.
Yes.
But I was pretty calm about it because it had been part of my life for so long.
Yeah.
And I came into this office to submit it, and I got in here, and I sat down, and I became a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
I was my hand on the mouse.
You were.
I was shaking. Thank goodness for Karen.
Yes.
It was just calmness itself.
So Karen Jacobs, our executive officer, who is a legend, just took you into her office and submitted it together.
Yeah. Sometimes she, can I drive? Just take your little claw of death off the mouse. And just, it really, I guess it was, maybe that was sort of a catalyst, that final thing, to actually submit.
Yeah.
Click, what if something goes wrong? Yeah. Have I saved it in enough places? All sorts of silly things.
But see, that's just, to me, it was so meaningful for you.
Yeah.
And we're both getting upset, but actually, because it was so meaningful, that's why it was so unexpected that it all was just so terrifying.
Yeah, it was. I was quite surprised.
Yeah. Do you also see why now? And just again, this is an andragogical strategy for supervisors, and you'll be a fantastic supervisor, Vic, and you have been in the past. But that's why Steve and I go through the 10 iterations of drafts. We say we're going through 10 and then we will submit, because it stops all that worry about, is it ready? Do we need to do anything more? And tries to get the emotion out of the process and just keep the momentum going. So when we get to the 10, we submit. So we've never asked anybody this. How did that work for you, doing those 10 drafts and submitting?
I really liked it. I think it was a really useful structure for helping you move through it, as opposed to drifting. I liked structure, and I like to follow directions. Don't ask me not to follow directions. So, to me, it really suited my learning style, if you like, to use an old term, so that I could move through. I could see it evolving,
see the improvements,
and developing, and realising that even though a PhD is creative to an extent, it is the person's baby, you do have some sort of flexibility within to make it yours and to express yourself. Having that underpinned by a nice structured framework is really what's needed to bring it together.
And take the emotion out too.
Yes, it's just a process. It's just a PhD. It's just a process. Just a piece of writing.
It's not the best work you'll ever do. Yours will be a fantastic book, can I say, which we'll do. But it is about saying it's a process. We go through it. But the emotion at the end, that might come and frighten you at the end, because it means so much. So remember Vicky's great example: 8 years, ending in a very special day of submission that was quite emotional.
It was emotional, and probably for about 4 or 5 days afterwards, I was so tired. So tired.
Wow.
Yeah, really, really tired. It was, I was surprised.
But again, that shows how meaningful it is, and how hard she worked too. So this woman did. You know, we've known you. I mean, basically, I've met you the week I think I arrived in this job, and you know, we've worked you pretty hard for 5-6 months, and you were absolutely amazing. You're one of our dearest friends. You are a dear, dear person, and we are so proud of you. The university is so proud of you. I know Arthur and your family are just thrilled. It almost makes the achievement sweeter, I think, because it has taken 8 years.
I feel like I deserve it, yeah.
I mean, we are going to be cheering when you walk across that stage, Mrs. So it's currently under examination. We know it's all going, I think, well, I hope well, and we'll get a resolution, I hope, quite soon for you, Vic. But congratulations on behalf of the Office of Graduate Research, on behalf of Flinders University. We love you, and we're so proud of you. Congratulations, my darling.
Can I have the last word?
You can. She always does. Welcome to our meetings. This is what happens. Yeah.
On behalf of all the students at Flinders University, we thank you for being so fabulous.
Love you, baby. Thank you. We wish you love, light and peace. From the Victor, the long distance trucker, and to a very grateful day. Take care, guys.
See ya.
Love you, baby. You're amazing.